In the last 10 years, more than 20 people from Gloucester under the age of 25 have been killed in car accidents. This year alone, 5 young people have died. The statistics become all the more frightening when you consider the population of the town is just under 4,500. 3 weeks ago, 14-year-old Belinda Trotter and 18-year-old Stuart Kelly were killed and 3 others seriously injured as they returned from a party being held about 6 kilometres out of town. 2 of those who were injured were involved in another crash earlier in the evening and were being brought into hospital when the 19-year-old driver lost control and slammed into this tree. This latest accident has shocked the community. This week the town called a public meeting in an effort to find ways to stop the carnage. Most agree the problem stems from the fact that there is little for teenagers to do in Gloucester.
Nothing other than sport for young people to do after dark, and consequently they're left with their own devices to make their own entertainment. As you can see from that accident that we had here, there is a proportion of them are going out and forming their own parties in remote places, doing a lot of drinking, doing a lot of rather reckless driving and ending up with the tragic results we had here 2 weeks ago.
But that isn't the only reason why the accidents occur. Locals also blame the lack of official driver training education.
The majority of young people are taught in one location only, and so they go out into another and they're virtually unskilled, having been taught mostly the bad habits of their parents.
A steering committee comprising parents, teenagers and service group representatives has been formed to organise a driver training scheme. Although locals realise the problem is not unique to Gloucester, it has still left its mark on the small community.
I think if you were to look around, you'd find the same problems emerge in most other country towns. It's just that here, because it's such a small community, it impinges so hard on everybody.
It seems no news is good news for the man and woman on the land, and citrus growers throughout Australia have just been hit with another financial blow.
But the problems have nothing to do with the quality of fruit or the quality of growers. Central Coast producers are amongst the most efficient in the world. The real problem is thousands of kilometres away, where overproduction has sent world prices tumbling.
The juice concentrate price is controlled by the giant Brazilian market. Prices have dropped from $1,800 to $1,200 per tonne of juice. Central Coast growers received $130 for a tonne of oranges in August. Now it's $100. The Department of Agriculture estimates it cost $90 per tonne just to grow the fruit. In the Griffith area, producers are only getting $60 and it's feared prices will keep dropping.
Well, it's virtually a disaster as far as citrus goes. Well, we've had our downturns before, but this seems worse than ever.
Grower Bob Kemp also sells fruit to fruit markets and to fresh juice companies. However, the drop in concentrate price could lower orange prices across the board. In preparation for the crash, growers have diversified into other crops such as avocados and tomatoes. Orange production has dropped 35% in the last 5 years, but growers are now wondering what they have to do to survive. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Most have heard of zebra crossings and crossing between the lines, but the latest yet of pedestrian and traffic control has come home to roost. The pelican crossings are set at 6 city and lake intersections. When a pedestrian activates the lights, they change from green to yellow and then red. But after a short time on red, they will begin to flash yellow, allowing drivers to proceed with caution. The crossings are best suited to built-up areas in city blocks and are designed to reduce waiting time. The Roads and Traffic Authority will be putting the pelicans through their paces over the next few weeks. But how did they come up with the name Pelican?
Pelican's short for pedestrian light control. It's should, I suppose, be Pelican, but Pelican is much easier to say and much easier to promote.
And the motorists catching on to the new system?
Went through today without a hiccup.
Though the shortage of skilled staff is a national problem, it has now become critical in New South Wales. But this training centre, tucked away in the grounds of Curry TAFE, aims to overcome the crisis. It's a $12 million joint venture between IBM and TAFE and is the technological hub of a planned network of interlinked centres. Today it was officially opened by Minister for Industrial Relations, John Fahey. He said it reflects the change in the Hunter from basic manufacturing to advanced technology.
We're all disappointed with the lost opportunities in the past with the manufacturing that we thought was going to come with in large slices in the last couple of years. It didn't happen. But to the credit of people in the Hunter, they've recognised that they can't sit by and wait for that opportunity to come again. It might never come, so they're changing their direction, working into other areas, and high technology is one.
It is expected that students, many sponsored by their employers, will study here full-time for 16 weeks. Thanks to this residential accommodation, it's expected to attract students from across Australia and overseas.
But I'm certain in 2 or 3 years' time, as the economy turns around, that this will be rushed with applicants and it will become a centre of excellence in this area.
This is just one night's haul. An unlicensed fisherman allegedly set a net on the western side of Swansea in an area out of bounds even to licensed professionals. Such spots are set aside to protect fish stocks.
More or less to safeguard the fish around the areas, to give them a bit of a break from netting. And also a lot of these areas are nurseries for the fish in Lake Macquarie.
Inspectors say that poachers working from boats haul their catches on board just before dawn. They then try to sell them illegally to fish shops, restaurants and householders. This morning's swoop paid off. Offenders face prosecution and fines of up to $12,000 or a possible jail sentence. Boats can be impounded, the catches and nets confiscated. The lake's only 2 fishing inspectors have a vast area to patrol, but say most fishermen are aware of the fragile ecology and do the right thing. The confiscated catches are sold off to help pay for patrols. This load was expected to net about $500 for the state treasury.
Two months ago, touring delegates from Ubei presented Newcastle with a stylised replica of a lantern, a traditional part of Japanese culture. Next Monday, that gift will be reciprocated when representatives of Newcastle present the southern Japanese city with this intricate tapestry. Created by local artists Mary and Larry Beeston, the work highlights the similarities and differences between the two cities. Both are coal producers with harbours, so this forms the centrepiece of the work. Unlike Japan's industrial cities, though, Newcastle is clean and green, relatively free of pollution. So the Beeston separated buildings in the cityscape with rows of trees. While the picture shows no trace of the devastation, there is a subtle reminder of the December 28 quake.
I had spent a long time trying to work out what time I should put on the clocks, and suddenly I think I was inspired to put the time of the earthquake, because I have felt that the earthquake changed a lot of things in Newcastle, and one of the good things that came out of it was people really love their city for what it is now, and I think that's very important.
The work was handed over to Lord Mayor John McNaughton today.
The purpose of the gift is to mark the 10th anniversary of the sister city relationship between Ubei and Newcastle, and it needs to symbolise the ethos of Newcastle, if you like, and that's what it does very well.
Even from the outside, it's obvious that the John Hunter Hospital is something quite different. Its shape has been designed to be as unobtrusive as possible on the bushland ridge on which it stands. And once inside, the cold, clinical and often threatening white paint and tiles of hospitals past have disappeared. The main entrance resembles a five-star hotel. Soft pastel hues throughout echo the tranquility of the Australian bush. Relaxing landscaped courtyards continue the theme. The fresh air feel is emphasised in many wards by the lack of air conditioning. These scooped awnings duct cool breezes right into the rooms. It's believed patients will recover quicker under these natural conditions. And much of the building is naturally lit. A special feature is the glass-roofed corridor giving access to all parts of the hospital.
I think the people will see a whole different layout of things. For example, X-ray is right next to casualty. Some of the other investigating services are right next to where they are needed, and then the travel in the hospital is reduced.
State-of-the-art technology is also a major feature. The most modern equipment available may be the first view some patients have when they are admitted via casualty. But it's really 4 hospitals in one, combining services from the Royal Newcastle, Mater and Western Suburbs hospitals to give complete patient care under one roof. Already 130 staff are hard at work here, with hundreds more expected to take up their posts before Christmas. The first patients will be admitted in January, with a staggered opening of services until March. Tomorrow, the Hunter Area Health Service will officially thank the Public Works Department and contractors for completing the hospital on time, and that's despite $6 million worth of damage caused by last December's earthquake. But still to be completed is a Ronald McDonald House and a special staff sports complex, which will have tennis and squash courts, a gym and perhaps even a swimming pool. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.
Oyster farmers fear the proposed 75% expansion of Tomago aluminium could affect the marine ecology of the Hunter River and Port Stephens. Their concern stems from 2 separate large-scale oyster and fish kills. Oyster farmer Terry Jones told commissioners today that the last kill coincided with a discharge of filthy yellow-brown water from the drainage pipes which serve Tomago aluminium. Mr Jones took samples of this discharge. The skin on his hands peeled off the next day. The inquiry heard that a fisheries inspector who also took samples received burns to his arms. The State Pollution Control Commission was informed, but the oyster farmers are less than happy with its response.
We gave them samples the day that my hands were burnt by the effluent, and they refused to test them, and it took them a month to get back to Tomago aluminium. I know that because I've spoken to the people from Tomago, and they didn't know till a month after that anything had actually happened.
Earlier in this inquiry, Tomago aluminium staunchly denied responsibility for the oyster kill, pointing to the fact that the outfall in question is shared by several industries. Terry Jones' response to that denial came today. We can't be sure it was Tomago aluminium pollution, but it was coming off their property. We believe they're responsible for anything that comes off their property, whether they put it there or not.
I have absolutely no confidence in the comments made by the State Pollution Control Commission.
Geologist and metallurgist Dean Crawford launched a scathing attack on the State Pollution Authority at today's hearing. He told commissioners his argument is not so much with Tomago aluminium, but with the State Pollution Control Commission. Tomago can rightfully claim to be within its licence conditions for gaseous emissions. Tomago aluminium must therefore be a good corporate citizen.
The real problem are the licences themselves, and they hark back to the State Pollution Control Commission. I strongly believe that many of those licences are far too lenient.
The State Pollution Control Commission was the last party to appear before the inquiry. Their submission stated that a satisfactory stormwater system can be designed and operated to ensure no unacceptable impacts on the Hunter River and Tomago sandbeds. Given available pollution controls, they concluded that Tomago's expansion plan should not be refused on environmental grounds. The Commission of Inquiry will reconvene later this month. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
Previous play on a synthetic surface proved a real bonus for the New South Wales women's team, as right from the outset they established their superiority. Beth Garner gave the Blues a 3-0 lead from a short corner before Alison Lippy grabbed Newcastle's only goal of the day from a similar position, her shot thundering into the back of the net. Kim Small added a further goal for New South Wales with a fine backhand shot, and then the goal of the day. Janine Summons made a great run down the left wing and with individual flair beat a couple of defenders before unselfishly passing the ball to Kim Small, who did the rest. Newcastle started the men's match like world beaters with the ball in the net twice but disallowed on both occasions. Italy then hit back, taking the attack to the locals, and 22 minutes into the first half, Dubois' shot just missed the top of the goal. Newcastle countered and the keeper was caught way out of position, but Newcastle couldn't get the goal to break the deadlock. 6 minutes before the break, Raggio slammed one away from a short corner and Italy led 1-0. Newcastle pressured the Italian goalmouth, but their keeper stood firm, making 2 great saves in quick succession. The score remained the same for a long period in the second half before Newcastle's Richard Campbell, with lessons learnt from watching the Australians yesterday, grabbed the equaliser. Immediately Italy went on the attack, which brought instant results, or so it seemed. While Bertoni celebrated his goal, the umpires conferred and the decision was reversed and the score remained at 1-1. But for the Italians it was to end happily as Dubois took the ball inside the area with good control, on to Morrow, who made no mistake, and the visitors were home 2-1. Rush qualified 4th for the final behind arch-rival George Tatnall and teenage sensations Skip Jackson and Brooke Tatnall. The younger Tatnall led the field for most of the distance, with Jackson holding down second spot before George Tatnall slipped through, followed by Rush with 8 laps to go. Several stoppages brought the older brigade a bit closer, and with 3 laps to go, Rush made his move, charging to the lead, and even though Brooke Tatnall fought back tenaciously, Rush was too good and notched another state title. The Formula 500 boys delighted the big crowd with some spectacular racing and even better spills. As happens on most occasions, all drivers walked away uninjured. And the highlight of the night, the Smash 'em Crash 'em Demolition Derby, where Brett Thompson in the 14 car collected $1,000 for deliberately destroying everything around him, and he even retained his licence with no charges pending. At the Cliff, a gentler pace in the final day of the Newcastle Wave Ski Classic. In surf that was difficult to say the least, the competitors turned in some solid performances that impressed the spectators. Larry Adams won the senior men's, Craig Dinning the juniors, Lisa Ryan the ladies and Rob Conlon the masters. In the 30-minute open final, it was Sydney versus Newcastle, with locals John Holmes and Brett Ford up against former world champ John Christensen and Andrew Holland. Each rider was judged on his best 4 waves, and it was Holland who applied the early pressure with a couple of high-scoring waves. But the Australian champion Christensen thrives on pressure, and he nailed the opposition with his 4 waves, ranging from 5.5 to a top-scoring 9 out of 10. Holland hung on to second, with John Holmes of Newcastle third.
Minmai plays a prominent role in council's plans to encourage people back to Newcastle City. A recent urban design study of the area found that Minmai, Marylands and Beresfield were ideal locations for residential development.
We see an expansion of the city, which is the only place we've got to go.
Most of the land surrounding Minmai is owned by Coal and Allied. Because the company no longer has use for it, a rezoning from rural to residential is being sought. What is now open space and gravel roads could soon be transformed into tarred streets surrounded by more than 300 building blocks. Within a few years, council envisages the population of the town will triple, paving the way for a dramatic change in its character. And it's this which has present dwellers concerned. Steeped in mining history, residents feel the onslaught of suburbia will destroy the atmosphere of the small village.
We'll be just looking over suburban roofing, and it'll separate the historic buildings and prevent other buildings coming in place that are more in sympathy with the area.
It is a concern and how to look after the history and the historical items which undoubtedly exist in Minmai, to look after those whilst at the same time allowing residential development, is something that will have to be addressed by council.
It's all in the name of fun, but competition for an overall point score and medal count will be fierce. The local volleyball squad has been limbering up in its assigned team colours, grey and pink, which have already earned them a nickname, the Galahs. Teams from New South Wales, Queensland, the ACT and Victoria are competing in 13 sports from track and field to 10-pin bowling and volleyball. The games started last weekend and the Hunter already has a healthy start with gold medals in swimming and 10-pin bowling. The pistol shooting team is confidently on target for more medals when it takes to the range on Friday. The games continue until Saturday.
Hill severed his ties with the Newcastle Falcons after disagreeing with coach Ken Cole on a number of issues, including the recruitment of Jerry Everett and Al Green, but under NBL rules couldn't open discussion with other clubs until Monday. Two of the named clubs in the league, Eastside Melbourne Spectres and the Sydney Kings, are racing to snare his services for next season. The Spectres finished the 1990 season proper in second spot on the ladder with 18 wins and 8 losses, while the Kings also made the playoffs with a 16-10 record. Bob Turner, coach of the Sydney Kings, said that Hill fits into their game style perfectly and the former Falcons mentor is desperate to have Hill on the playing roster for 91. It is also believed that Hobart and Westside Melbourne will make the point-scoring guard offers.